Hello everyone and welcome to a special edition version of Spoiler Warning today, covering the active releases that are happening of a number of different WWE talent. A small number has so far been confirmed, but they are likely to grow into a bigger number over time. We're going to try and have an active newsroom here, share the information verified and sourced as it comes in. Any information I get, I will be sharing with you, but we also have an active newsroom at play in Discord for if you'd like to join that for more information as it goes through. I know this is an area where a lot of people are going to be very heavily invested in certain wrestlers, but I just want to be very, very clear. I will answer as many questions as you have, but I am wishing everyone the best of luck when it comes to whatever comes next for them. This is not an area in which I'm going to sit here and say, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. We will do what we can. But unfortunately, it's a very difficult situation right now. To start with, to confirm, so far released by WWE, Emma, Aliyah, Rick Boogz, Mustafa Ali, Elias, Riddick Moss, and Top Dollar. More conversations are supposedly actively ongoing elsewhere, so there's a lot of conversation happening there. There is also two other big pieces of news which tie into this, that being the deal that the WWE announced today with Australia, which allows them to essentially put on a big show for Elimination Chamber in February in Australia, which will be a big increase in revenue for the WWE, and also the move from Fox to NBC Universal, which will also increase revenue for the WWE. So they're going to make a lot more money, but they still apparently decided that there was enough reason to say goodbye to people. They've been trying to fight this for a long time. Triple H and Nick Khan, as I've been actively reporting, have been doing everything possible that they could do in order to increase revenues, meaning that they didn't have to let people go. Today is going to be a difficult day for Triple H and Nick Khan. It may not feel like the right mood for it, but please do remember to hit the like button when you come in. We have 32 people here and only the 5 likes, so every single one helps. 5 more gets us up to 10 and gets us started. That should spread the word of this stream for anyone who does want to join and share the conversation. And yes, if you do have news or if you do see anything on Twitter, please bring it into the chat. This is what we're doing essentially with the newsroom in Discord as well. If you're not joining the particular chat, you can join the newsroom in Discord. This is a time when we need to share information, get as much information together as possible, verify as much of that information as we can by bringing in multiple sources and confirmations. This is a show where we have to work together to get the right information across, because if we do slip up on this one, unfortunately, it will mean we're accidentally reporting someone losing their job. So we're absolutely not going to do that, and we don't want people losing their jobs. Adam says, hey, Tom's Adam, this isn't good, but I'll be here for everyone in this chat. Appreciate that. Frankie DeGennaro says, releases suck, but not overly surprising. Sucks they couldn't come to an agreement with Ali. I think a lot of people were expecting those released to be those who have come back under Triple H. It's just a very firm blow to Triple H. Mustafa Ali is a very special situation in that he's wanted out of the WWE for a while now. This isn't exactly how he would have wanted to get his wish, but for him at least it is something that he wanted. Kieran agrees Ali is the most surprising, literally had a segment on NXT Tuesday saying he was coming to Raw on Monday. He also, I believe, has a match at No Mercy. I'm not sure if Ed's here, my resident NXT expert, but I do believe he was supposed to be having a match at No Mercy with Dominic Mysterio, so awkward moments. Kieran really hopes Tegan doesn't become released. We will be talking about online rumours as well. This is a moment where I will try and share my expertise on what I've heard. I know there's a lot of names trending right now that aren't trending because of any actual reason beyond we don't want them to go. Frankie, we do not know if Hit Row are gone or if it's just Top Dollar. As soon as we have that information, we'll endeavour to share it. Trichopedia suggests Dragon Lee to face Dirty Dom at No Mercy. Not sure at this point. When it comes to No Mercy, there is certainly a hole there. Khalid hopes Braun Strowman doesn't get released. Releasing someone while injured would certainly not be helpful, but it's going to be awkward for everyone involved for quite a lot of these, unfortunately. Marcel says, hi Tom. Hello Marcel. Trichopedia says, Shelton just said he's been released. Appreciate that you've sourced that as well. He literally said it. Frankie said, doubt they've released Braun Miles out of a bad injury. I agree. Wiggly says, really like Aliyah too. I'm not going to read out your second point, mate. That's poor taste. And you know it. Yes, Khalid, Top Dollar has been released. Leon says, say what you want about Top Dollar, but he was genuinely emotional, admitted to being depressed when he first got released and was genuinely happy to be back. Sad to see him released again. And this is one of the things we really do have to consider when it comes to moments like this. Someone who has been released and has had to fight off a lot of negativity in their lives because of that moment, because of essentially being told we don't want you anymore, is now back there again. That's a difficult spot to be in. Sean says, hi Tom. Hello Sean. King Gaza says, I'm surprised about Ali. Had a segment on NXT. I've read that one. Juana Roscoe says, hey Tom, does Mercedes money eat up AEW's cap space? No. Kieran says, Shelton Benjamin said he was released on Twitter. Sean confirms he put out a tweet saying he was released. Appreciate that we're getting to the nitty gritty here and getting the details in. Bailey says, do you expect an NXT list as well? Mustafa Ali was considered NXT. Khalid says, thanks to Elias for your amazing time. Work in WWE, my favourite wrestler. Brad Becker says, the false reports of someone being released needs to stop, and Trekipedia agrees. I also massively agree with that. You will find people desperate to get attention will take advantage of moments like this. They are essentially just desperate for someone to pay attention to them, and we don't like trolls like that. It is an awful, awful situation to be put into, and that certainly makes it worse. Adam has backed up the tweet with the source for SRS of Fightful, saying Shelton Benjamin has been cut. Timothy Bellis points out that someone joked about Johnny Gargano being released, and imagine that person is going to be ostracised. Peter Roberts says, hey Tom, any update on Triple H being released? Triple H is not being released. There's your update. Sai says, quick request, can we not quote false reports? If we know they're false, let's not bring them in here even to laugh at them. I'm not personally against that. I appreciate what you're doing there, Sai, as long as you strictly state that they are false. There is also an element of rumour killer to shows like this. We will have people who come in here and say, Johnny Gargano's gone, because they believe the false report. So as long as you're making it clear that they are false reports, I'm going to dispute Sai there, and I'm sure Sai will understand. Trekipedia says, I hope Mox is okay. Got a bad concussion last night and hope Adam Lee is okay too. Sean says, Dragon Lee is facing Dominic on Raw for the belt. Eesh. Thank you, Boss Pedal, for providing the link there. Number of the Devil says, Shelton Benjamin has been released by WWE. Fightful has confirmed. King Azza, we are not sitting here and saying they should release this or that person. These are people's jobs. These are people's livelihoods. We do not support saying people should be released. Adam says, Tom, is there a limit of releases? No. There is never going to be a limit of releases, unfortunately. That's just the situation we're in. What has happened is essentially Nick Khan has put together a new cost-benefit analysis list, and that was directly tied in. I'll get into this a bit more in the next part once we're all caught up. A direct connection to the money and the income and the revenue that would have been raised by the Australia deal and the NBC Universal deal. Put simply, it was not the amount of money that they were hoping for, that being Triple H and Nick Khan, who were hoping to avoid releases. Just in case they did have to release people, Nick Khan was ready with a list, and here we are. Number the Devil says, Fightful has learned former World Heavyweight Champion Dolph Ziggler has been released by WWE. Plenty of people saying it. Do we have a second source on that one? So we're running this as a newsroom. We're going to need a second source on Dolph Ziggler being gone. Okay? I just want to be clear. We can't say that's 100% confirmed unless we have it from at least one more source. Kieran says, Ziggler released now, which makes me think if he and his brother knew, as the other day his brother tweeted a picture of them holding AEW gold. Won't go that far. Adam SRS is not the second source for Dolph Ziggler. He's the first source. Frankie says, something I'm finding interesting is that they're releasing everyone who was drafted as a free agent. The reason they were not drafted and left as free agents, and they're not releasing all of them, just to be clear, the reason they're doing that is because they didn't intend to use them. They had no plans for them, and when they have no plans for people, that tends to get you on the chopping block. Peter Roberts says, incorrectly, all of them will go to AEW. And Peter Robert, you are on a timeout, because we've had this question, then this debate a number of times. You have absolutely no reason to state that. That's not a fact. That is not a fact. So think about what you're saying. Sean says, Tom, can you confirm the report about Becky wanting to face Tegan on Raw? Nope. Trekipedia says, saw people saying Corbin should be released on Twitter. Not cool of them to say that. And I 100% agree with that. It's not cool at all. People should not be wishing for people to be released. It's a difficult enough time without going online, having been released, and seeing that people were actively wishing for you to fail, to lose your job, to lose everything. This is not a good thing. Jordan Darlow says, good afternoon, Tom. Man, this sucks. A real shame for the talent getting released. I hope in time all involved can find their happiness again and enjoy the craft. Thank you, Jordan. That's a really positive outlook for this. And I wish much the same. I don't want to see anyone get released. My hope is that they will land on their feet and continue to do good work in the near future for another area. This is one of the biggest positives when it comes to AEW, for example. Additional options for where they can go later. We have 19 likes so far and 47 viewers. One more gets us to 20. Please try and be that one. Number of the Devil says, all the sources today have come from Fightful, so it's probably true. Not even slightly true. Plenty of people have been sourced on Twitter when they themselves have announced their release. Also, I believe in second sourcing regardless of how much you might trust the first source. Fightful is one source. Brad Becker says, confirmed by Wrestling Ops. Wrestling Ops does not report news to my knowledge. There is only one time I can recall that they've reported news, and that being a video of Randy Orton walking into the Performance Center. What they didn't say was when that video was taken, or anything as regards intention. It might have been 4 or 5 years old. We don't know. Trekipedia, thank you, this is good stuff to bring in. Ziggler removed all his WWE references last week and changed his name back from Dolph Ziggler. That is usually telling. Thank you for the clarity there, Sai. Red Top Rich says hi. Welcome, Red Top Rich. Ori says, I had a feeling this was coming when they were saying the cuts were only going to be on the admin office side. I don't believe there was ever an intention for that only to happen. They were looking for cuts. Thank you, Juan Orozco. Austin says, that's a shocker, definitely AEW bound. You don't know that? That's complete speculation. Please make it clear that that's the case. Eric says, who's Dom going to face at No Mercy now? No idea. I'd imagine they're still working that out. They tend to release people without really thinking about that. Khalid wants Baron Corbin to stay in NXT as his favourite character. Mark says, sorry I'm late, who's been released so far? So let's go into the names that we have so far. Thankfully, I have Sai and the newsroom in Discord feeding me the exact details as we get through it. So Emma has been released, Aliyah has been released, Rick Boogz, Mustafa Ali, Elias, Riddick Moss, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin and Dolph Ziggler. We are still waiting on finding out what that second source is for Dolph Ziggler, but Trekipedia has brought some good information in. I just want to be clear, we are double sourcing all of our information. If you say it's Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful, that's not two sources. That's one source, guys. One source. I do not want to sit here and say this person's been released when we don't know for certain. It's difficult enough reporting on what might happen. Does that see catch up? Mark Ori says, if WrestleOps is quoting or using Fightful as their source, then the source is Fightful. Wrestling Ops, as I have said, is not a source of information. They report what other people report. Leon says, whilst I don't want anyone to be released, sometimes they can turn it around. Look at Swerve Strickland, for example. That is absolutely the case. It does, if you're able to, create an opportunity. But they're also involved in that is luck, intent, and mental health. Top Dollar, as we mentioned earlier, has been very open about the fact that being released hurt him mentally. And I don't blame him for that. It's a very difficult world at times, and especially when you see people celebrating it on social media, not a good thing. Dan, welcome. Says people also don't realise the effect this has on their living situation if they're not a US natural. The level of ignorance is just outrageous. Dan and Emily Reed, as the account says there, is in charge of Eve Wrestling, knows quite a bit about this, including a lot of the booking and a lot of working with quite a bit of the talent who work in WWE and other companies at this point in time. That's a real opinion that's been informed. Just wanted to be clear there. Appreciate that, Ori. We are on 47 viewers and 27 likes. 3 more gets us to 30. If you can fund me like Solo, I'd very much appreciate it. Bailey says, right now it appears that all the cuts except Ali have no recent storylines. Is this correct? Not 100% correct. Some of them were planned to be involved going forwards, but it's one of those, unfortunately, where it's a bit difficult to be able to say one way or the other whether there were going to be recent storylines or whether there were storylines being planned that didn't eventually go anywhere and they just sort of cancelled it. It's not a situation we can sit here and say one way or the other whether or not there was an intention to use people. Boss Pedal says, a horrible situation, but these people are all supremely talented. In 12 months' time, I believe some of these people could be top stars for other companies, but that is 12 months when they cannot continue to build. I'd be interested to see if they hold them to their non-compete. I hope not. Adam, I'm not taking the words. I think PWInsider. If you don't know the source, you don't have a source. Lucia says, how's it going, Tom? Started seeing the news drop, at least 8 to 10 names so far. Quite a few, yes, unfortunately. A very difficult situation for everyone involved. Austin says he called this. It was going to happen, this merger with TKO. WWE, they're taking this serious. Well, I called the time, but I don't really I want to take credit for it. I've got to be honest. Don't want to take credit for anything like this. Danielle says, good afternoon, but it doesn't feel very good. Sean says, I think October would have been a year that Emma returned. Sean, if you're able to double check that, I'd very much appreciate it. And then we can change that think to a no. Austin says, Sportskeeda posted about Ziggler. Again, not a second source. Not a second source. I'm going to be very clear on this. I know I'm being a bit of a stickler, but I'm going to be a stickler until the end of time on this one. An aggregator is not a second source. If you look at the actual report from Sportskeeda, instead of just the headline, you'll see that they say, probably, Fightful reported. When you see headlines from different outlets, it doesn't mean they're confirming it. It just means that they're sharing it. Chris says, Drew McIntyre and Matt Cardona are two guys who were able to take their releases and turn it into a positive. You say that, but if McIntyre had not been released, if instead the situation was he stayed and had those years in the WWE, I think he would have been a WWE champion much sooner, personally. Thank you. Gotcha. Okay, we're bringing this in. David Leary says, has there been any cuts from NXT yet? Ali was considered an NXT talent. Lucha says, Ali was supposed to have a title match against Dominic at No Mercy. Makes me wonder if Dom, drops the title Monday or a different match at the PLE. Eric says, look at Toni Storm. She's another who got in a much better situation once she got released. Yes, but they are the exceptions, not the rule. They are the exceptions, not the rule. I would debate with quite a large number of people whether or not they're technically better off or not. It depends what you define as better off. Quite a few people who came back under Triple H were not doing so great in the meantime. Now, this really does call into question the idea that, AOP have been signed for months. That Nia Jax had been signed since January, since she appeared at the Royal Rumble. It calls a lot of that into question, but it also calls into question whether or not they knew this was coming, and that's why Nia Jax started making appearances. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Frankie, confirming what I believe... sorry, I'm missing out on names at times. What Adam said earlier about PWInsider. PWInsider have confirmed that Dolph Ziggler has gone. I need to update my title. WWE released Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin. Yeah, this list is getting bad, isn't it? It wasn't great to begin with. Jonathan Rodriguez says, I find it weird that the wrestlers are announcing on Twitter what's going on. There's a number of different reasons for that and a number of different potential benefits to that. Wrestlers announcing that they're free agents essentially sends a message to other people and other companies to say, hey, come get me, I'm available. It also creates a few headlines, which generates at least a little bit of buzz, suggesting that companies should say, hey, I should get them. Things like that. Also, it does sort of let people know the situation for, hey, here's why I'm not on TV. And it's sort of, it encourages a fan base. Okay? It encourages a fan base to rally around. Sometimes, when it comes to social media, you just want to say, hey, this bad thing happened. And you need to be observant of that. Daniela says, Top Dollar came back, then got released. B-Fab and Adonis may want to go with him. They also may not want to go with him. We'll know whether or not they're leaving at some point soon, I'm sure. Kelly says, I appreciate you, Tom, for going live at this time. This is unusual for me. I've just finished my actual day job. So yeah, it's not a great time for it, but we do what we do because we have to. You know? We have to. Leon says Dolph has born. I don't think he has been born. Probably did a long time ago. These are those shows which I'm not particularly happy to do, but it's a bit of a grieving show, same as anything. We have to get together and sort of share stories and say whether or not it's not actually helping. Sai says solid sources. Tom, feel free to correct. Will do. Might include Meltzer. Is in situations like this, Dave Meltzer is absolutely beyond reproach. Alvarez, Sean Ross Sapp, PWInsider, Wade Keller, John Pollock. There are others. I think WrestleNomics is actually the #1 source right now. Here's the thing to be aware of, though. At no point should you listen to anything from a Zero News or a Boozer Wrestling right now. You just shouldn't do it. Ringside News? Nope. Don't do it. Now is not the time to trust them. Austin says it would be awesome to see Ziggler in New Japan. Personally, I think he'll focus more on other activities and his other careers rather than continuing with wrestling, but we'll see what happens. Rosasa says, Tom, just saw the news and saw you going live. Yep, unfortunately, here we are. Leon says, Dolph has been so loyal to WWE, releasing him very disrespectful. He hasn't wrestled for them in quite a long time and doesn't seem to have much interest in changing that. So I think this is one of those, he's left the company in everything but name only. He was on the books, but I don't think he was actually getting a paycheck. Kervin, I have absolutely no idea what you've just said. I don't think Darby Allin's involved there. Martin says, Brian Alvarez tweeted, thank you for sourcing, the NXT releases are believed to be coming around 5 p.m. Eastern time. That is 10 p.m. UK time. That is 4.5 hours from now. It's interesting hearing that because it suggests that we're going to get a lot that wrap up when it comes to the main roster soon. Keyshawn asks Dolph to AEW. Maybe. I think there's a reason he hasn't been wrestling for a while that may keep him from doing that. Sai says, you all are bringing it with the sources. Well played and thanks. Nice teamwork. I appreciate all of you for doing so. Kieran says, Dolph said before he was coming to the end of his wrestling career and is working on comedy more, and that is indeed the case. It's why we haven't seen him wrestle for a while. He would come back for certain big matches, a brief feud with Drew McIntyre, for example, but he's not believed to be a particular draw at this point by the WWE. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't let him run down his contract out of respect, but we are where we are. Bailey says, good point about the exceptions, not the rule. Take a look at last year's cut list and a number of them did not return to prominence, particularly in NXT and NXT UK. Razar, we do have quite a lot to talk about when it comes to the SmackDown deal, but let's actually start by talking about the Australia deal, because the Fox situation and indeed the Australia deal both come into this, and there is a lot to talk about. In fact, I've just seen in the newsroom on Discord. If you're not on the Discord, by the way, this would be a great time to join because we have an active newsroom going there. That WrestleOps did indeed quote Fightful when stating that Dolph Ziggler was released. That is not a confirmation. We need to work on media literacy in some instances, and I do think this is the right place to do it because it is very easy to believe that if 3 or 4 different places report something, it's a fact. In fact, they haven't reported it. One place has reported it and 15 sites have aggregated it. It does not mean it is a fact. So the Australia deal. The WWE announced this morning that Elimination Chamber in 2024 will be going to Australia, which is a huge opportunity for fans in Australia who want to get the opportunity to see WWE live. The WWE have negotiated a quite sizable amount of money, which creates some pretty big opportunities for them, and it does help to increase the revenue that they are generating. I'm just going to try and find the tweet right now, so I'm saying exactly what's happening. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are already over there. The show is going live at the Optus Stadium in Perth at February 24th, 2024. That is, of course, a Saturday. And it's a big opportunity for a number of Australian wrestlers, but Emma, of course, was released shortly afterwards. Rhea Ripley will feature strongly. We can definitely expect to see a lot of Rhea Ripley in the build to that. This is one of those where it should be a day of celebration, but unfortunately it is not. The WWE is still trying to negotiate particular high volume and high income amounts when it comes to different countries. I've mentioned China putting bids in, but I also have to mention the UK. The WWE still want to book Wembley, but they don't want to pay for it, they want to be paid for it. AEW, of course, paid for the honour, whereas WWE want to be paid for it. If that Wembley deal had materialised, they may have been able to at least reduce some of these cuts, but I doubt it when it comes to that. When we move forward, however, in addition to the Australia deal, they have moved from Fox to NBC Universal for SmackDown. That means SmackDown and Raw will both be on USA Network. Now, this starts in 2024 under October, so it'll be October 2024. It is a significant increase in their revenue, but is not significant enough to reach the level that they were looking for. Of course, it's also not network, it's cable, which means it's guaranteed to reduce their viewership. We will see ratings sink. That's not a problem for the WWE. The WWE don't really care, in fact, and it's creating its own thing. There have been so many changes recently, and I need to read out a tweet that I've sent out, a thread that I sent out 51 minutes ago that I'm going to retweet right now, and I'd request that you all share if possible, or at least leave a reply saying that you like it. If you don't like it, then by all means don't leave a reply, or leave a reply saying that you don't like it. Whatever works for you. But I'm going to post a link to it in the chat for easy doing. I just want to read this out because it does share a lot of details as to the releases and also what is happening right now with Fox, with WWE on Fox. So, to read. WWE is planning to leave Fox for NBCU, with SmackDown moving over in October 2024, but that is only the beginning of the story. Major changes will be happening with Fox in the months to come, starting with Rupert Murdoch stepping down. Rupert Murdoch is arguably the most powerful man in the world, controlling a vast media empire that for decades has been the pinnacle of media. The acquisition of the WWE fit their agenda perfectly at the time, but the landscape has changed since 2019. A monstrous loss to a lawsuit that cost Fox $787.5 million for claims made against Dominion voting machines has meant that they are far more careful what goes on the air. Tucker Carlson, their most popular host, was the first major casualty. Losing the WWE is testament to a number of things. Firstly, the loss of that much funding from the lawsuit, coupled with the loss of that much income, Tucker Carlson, is making them rethink their spending. The WWE, particularly Vince McMahon, always believed the WWE to be worth more, and when he talks about the WWE plateauing, this is part of it. Fox simply weren't able to match the ambitions of the WWE, and in particular, TKO's Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel. Also, TV ratings simply aren't important anymore. SmackDown earns the WWE huge revenue from TV, even during bad shows with low viewership. Additionally, Fox themselves are evolving as a company. Their core audience has always been hardcore conservatives. Demographically, that means old, white and male. Donald Trump exemplified those values, and that association has cost Fox massively. They had 4 of the best years they've ever had while he was president. Since then, they've really struggled. There is evidence to suggest, however, that the world is changing and becoming more liberal. People are more likely to believe in global warming, vaccines and gun control. The Fox message simply doesn't resonate as strongly. This is also true with wrestling, which has historically been portrayed as liberal but actively run by conservatives. The Nature Boy does not fit the conservative ideal. There's an example for you. Triple H, another example, does not have the same values as Vince McMahon. While McMahon is still in charge, he isn't running the day-to-day project. Wrestling is being presented differently. So while Fox was initially attracted to it, they now have neither the capital or motivation to take what is seen as a gamble. Lachlan Murdoch, set to take over the company from his father, has his own vision. SmackDown moving to NBC Universal will see smaller ratings than Fox. However, the only people who care nowadays are the people not involved in the business. As far as the WWE are concerned, It's all about the money, dollar bills y'all. This decision, though, does directly impact rumours of talent releases. Nick Khan and Triple H have been working hard to increase revenue streams, with Vince McMahon directly assisting. The Australia deal, announced today, came with an increased revenue. The TV deal did the same. That increase, however, doesn't seem to be enough. As such, we're still expecting cost-cutting measures and a more streamlined company. Vince McMahon, historically, does not enjoy working with a large roster. Triple H in particular is likely to be very disappointed today, but he will have to put a brave face on. I actually said a brave fast, which has disappointed me more than I can possibly describe. So this is how, well, one of many ways in which things are tying in. And it does create a huge feeling of disappointment because people are being released because essentially, pardon me, they couldn't get the deal over the line. That creates its own set of challenges, and it means they have to let people go. I'm going to continue to read out the chat. We do have 55 people watching and 37 likes. If you're able to, please leave a thumbs up. 3 more gets us to 40, and we've had great luck with likes and with viewers as a result recently. So please do be one of those 3 more if you've not yet hit like. And subscribe if you haven't already. We will be covering a lot of breaking news as it comes in over the next few days, weeks, months. We basically never stop here. You get 2 live shows a week and then random shows like this when big news happens. Chris says, I feel like Dolph will focus on his stand-up comedy. He's talked about wanting to get into acting in the past. Keyshawn says, damn, not Rick Boogz. Kevin is saying, everybody knows Mustafa Ali was not happy in WWE. I'll allow that on the basis that he himself said it. Eric is hoping that people don't get released, but only certain people. By all means, Khalid, join the Discord. It's pinned at the top in case you want to join the newsroom or in case you just want to join somewhere where we talk wrestling. Austin also hopes certain people don't get released, but he's fine with others. Khalid, Rhea Ripley's hometown is not Australia, that's her home country. Any Ohio Boise State fan says Rhea Ripley might be in the main event for the Australia show. Personally, if we're going Elimination Chamber, I would make that happen. I would have Rhea Ripley defending the Women's Championship in the Elimination Chamber, particularly if it is going to be Becky Lynch taking that opportunity against her. I do feel we're not going to have Becky Lynch win the Royal Rumble, so it may well be the Elimination Chamber that decides the challenger. A Elimination Chamber which finishes with Dominic Mysterio distracting or in some way attacking Becky Lynch, allowing Rhea Ripley to pick up the win, would certainly help. Martin says Big E just paid tribute to Dolph in a tweet. Thank you for that, Martin. I always appreciate when people do that, when people bring that in. And of course, it's a big help in general to confirm something as well. Sai correctly saying Murdoch, that being Rupert Murdoch, stepping down impacts more than WWE wrestling sport on TV or TV. It's huge. There is a genuine concept, which I personally very closely believe, that Rupert Murdoch may be the most powerful man in the world. He decides elections. There is no hyperbole here. There is no speculation here. He decides elections. Bailey says Fox is vulnerable without a streaming entity. Portions could be sold at some point. There is going to be a streaming entity. I'm sure Lachlan Murdoch will work towards that. We're just not there yet. Eric, that's no basis in fact whatsoever. None whatsoever. I need you to calm down and stop randomly throwing names out there. Razal says WWE fans are a lot more liberal, especially compared to UFC fans. True. Appreciate that, Khalid. He has shared the tweet and reposted it. Ghost, how you doing? Says, I heard it's all about the money, dollar bill, y'all, and I'm here. Hello, Tom and chat. I hope everyone is doing all right. It's not the best time in the world, gotta say. Not the best time of the world. But, yeah, we at least will cover it and share. I'm honestly quite disappointed with a few of the names that are going when you look at what they could have delivered. A lot of them have only just come in. Aliyah, I feel, and this is really unfortunate, she was brought up from NXT to essentially kick her out of NXT. Sorry, she was brought up to main roster to essentially kick her out of NXT. This has happened previously with talent such as Ty Dillinger, where one side didn't know what to do with them, so they foisted them off on another side and hoped it would work. I think she did okay. She's been a women's tag team champion. Just unfortunately, she's picked up a number of injuries, and quite a lot of the people that are being released just haven't been featured. I think Emma's had the amount of matches Emma has had on TV, you can count on your fingers. That's not good enough. And I don't mean from her, I mean from the WWE. Austin says, when will the NBC deal happen? It kicks in October 2024. Martin says, doesn't the UFC debt also impact these releases? Nope. David Leary says, how can they bring in talent like Jade if she signed? Appreciate that. And then just release talent? Well, they have to pay for Jade somehow. Any Ohio says the new TV deal will free up some money for Fox to televise more college football, which it may well do. That's certainly a way of looking at it. Fox wants bankable sport content. WWE unfortunately didn't quite hit that bill. Squid says, so strange, R-Truth makes it through every cut with never being on TV. As Chris reports a bit later, R-Truth is hurt right now. Yeah, and that is true. But so has been, well, so are a number of people on the chopping block, unfortunately. Nas says, do you know what it means for Raw? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Raw will continue to be broadcast on NBC Universal. At least for the time being, that deal continues a little bit longer while they try and hash it out. Ruben Barber, and I can already see the response from Sai here. Says, WWE releases, here they come. Maybe 1% of them gets a proverbial AEW look. The most likely they're going to Thursday nights to make an impact. And Sai is absolutely right. Pure speculation, but you're allowed to share your opinions here. Daniela says, will there always be enough of a roster for 30 men and 30 women rumbles? There wasn't enough for a 30 woman rumble when they announced the very first women's Royal Rumble, so that's not really going to be an issue, is it? The dude says it's a shame, but remember there's lots of opportunity out there, even if it's not AEW. Mark Cardona is a good example of that. Best wishes to all released today. I do like that there's a lot of positive messages here. It's a very good place to be. Rosaire says, Ali was supposed to face Dominic at the NXT PLE. That'd be no mercy. Next week, really surprised he got released. I do think when it comes to these release lists, they do tend to start with people that they know want to go. For example, Grizzled Young Vets. They wanted to go, they have been released. So I do think when it comes to releases, they do tend to start with people who want out, which is why Miro actually left a while back, even though he's actively being used. The WWE wanted to keep him, but he didn't want to sign a new deal, so they released him when they needed people off the books. Thank you, Ed. Says Fox has 2 streaming networks in the US, one for Fox Major and one for Fox News. Thank you for the clarification. Sai says, all be aware, and this is a good warning, Twitter is a mess. A few fake accounts using journalists' names. Be careful. Names and pictures, of course. And the thing is, here's the thing. If those people decide to subscribe to Twitter Blue, they become untouchable. And in fact, the people whose name and likeness they're using are more at risk of having their accounts locked. That's Twitter now. Fox Nation, thank you, Any Ohio. Austin says, I always thought Aliyah and Carmella could have been a good tag team. I agree with that, it's a fair shout. Gary says the timing for Ali was unfortunate. He was doing great work in NXT and showing a ton of personality. The story with him, Tyler Bate and Dominic was doing good things for all. That seems to suggest that it will be Tyler Bate taking the opportunity against Dominic instead. 23 Fresh says, where is NXT main event and level up going next? That depends entirely on the deals that they can make happen. NBCU want it, but WWE want a lot of money for it, so we'll see if it's actually what they're looking for. It's McCade says, without a source, apparently Amari Miller has been released. Gonna need a source there, it's McCade, and then another one. Marcel says, sad for all, hope that they end up well in other companies. Danielle says, it's raining hard in Northern England. Releases are happening. This day couldn't get any worse. Every day can get worse. Let's not pretend the day can't get worse. I unfortunately have to be the bearer of bad news with that one. Sometimes things just get worse. If you are in the Discord, I am keeping an eye on your discussion as best I can to try and make sure we don't miss anything. There is, of course, a lot of news and conversation happening that we're going to be very, very careful of. What I will say is we have 80 people watching right now and only the 46 likes. 4 more will get us to 50 and really does help the growth of the channel. And of course, to find new subscribers for the days when, hopefully, there'll be better news. These days are rare, but hopefully one day soon, there'll be better news too. It's McCade says she tweeted a heartbreak emoji in the comments have been saying about releases. Not a source there, mate. A heartbreak emoji certainly is suggestive, but it's not someone saying I've been released. Comments, not even closely connected. You can't read fan speculation and consider it sources, unfortunately. Wrestler Fan says, will Brock Lesnar be at WWE Crown Jewel 2023? Unlikely. Any Ohio says, Ali getting released can maybe sign of AEW and be their Chicago hometown hero now. Well, they are looking for a new one. Alston says, I don't know if this is true, but have to ask you, Tom, was hearing rumbling about Sheamus' contract expiring? Yeah, but in the same way that every single wrestler's contract is actively expiring. Razar says, WWE can't release talent injured or pregnant right now, which is not even slightly true. Nope. They can release whoever they want. I mean, they fired CM Punk during his wedding day while he was injured. Ed quite rightly pointed out that could just be Amari Miller hurt by her friends losing their job. Wrestler Fan says, sad to see people losing their job when the company announces a gigantic money deal. They will be able to point to the fact that they wanted more money out of it. Essentially, the WWE can pass the buck here. They can completely pass the buck and say, well, if we got more money from here, if we got more money from there, if people had bought more tickets, etc., etc., they can and will pass the buck. Daniela says, on the WWE website is still advertising Dom versus Ali for the title. Why haven't they removed it? Because right now they're actively releasing people and that's where they're focused. They don't tend to tell the graphical team until they actually release someone. They like to release people and then deal with the fallout. I respect that. I respect that in a big way. One thing I do want to point out, and this was very awkward, Fightful reported that Riddick Moss was released, to my knowledge, before he was officially released. That was funny. I enjoyed that little exchange. Will says, with SmackDown going back to USA, do you see Raw and NXT staying on TV or going to streaming? Raw, they're currently working out the deal for. I see that staying on USA. NXT, they need a new deal for it. They are waiting to make it happen. Vegeta says, Tony has to be released. That's different. It is, that's fair. Corey MLB, welcome to the show. I also want to say a thank you to Wiggly and, of course, yourself, Corey, for renewing your subscriptions on Twitch. I very much appreciate it. Thank you for your continued generosity. It is Wiggly's 26th month, 26th total subscription. It is Corey's 30th month. 30 months. Wow. Wow. That's a lot of months. Thank you very much to you both. Dimitar says most of the talent didn't even get a chance, and that is 100% accurate. If we look through the list of people who've been released so far, let's see who they actually booked with some intention, because it's a very small amount of people. Let's see, we've got Emma, who, as I said, they gave her less than a handful of wrestling matches. Aliyah, who I feel they did do good things with, but she hasn't been on TV for a long time. There is potential that she is in fact still injured. Rick Boogz, who came back recently, and for some reason they didn't put him in a tag team with Shinsuke Nakamura, where he really got over. That's confusing to me. Ali, I feel they were doing really well by now, but he did want to go. I'm sure this particular release started with a question rather than a simple case of get out. Elias, it was recently reported, didn't have a contract, so how could they release him? Interesting one. Riddick Moss, I don't feel they did anything with since Triple H came in. Top Dollar, last thing he did, last time I saw him, he was getting beaten up by Bray Wyatt. And of course, Dolph Ziggler, who hasn't been on TV for a while. I think unfortunately his time was up a while back, so it's one of those situations. I don't feel many people who've been released actually had much of an opportunity on that. Any Ohio Hit Row have not been released that we know of. Top Dollar has, there are more people than just Top Dollar. I've now read what you said, Eddie Gomez. Yeah, I appreciate that was deleted. Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Sai. Not a big fan of that one. Not a big fan of it. Toxic Predator says Corey is a day one, which I do believe is true, yes. Juan Orozco says, as of now, only 9 people have been released. They might release more main roster talent before they cut NXT talent. They might do anything. We don't know what's going to happen next. We don't. Red Top Rich says, shame about released talent. Hopefully they get picked up. And hopefully so. Not everyone will want to get picked up. There were quite a few wrestlers, for example, Braun Strowman, who had no interest in getting picked up somewhere else. None whatsoever. Daniela says, wait, will Raw, NXT, SmackDown still be available to watch on UK TV channels like TNT Sports? Yes. The American TV deal and the UK TV deal are completely separate. Doopy Welcome says, everyone in the chat, please remember to be respectful to these wrestlers who are losing their jobs. They're going through a rough time, so please be mindful of that and be respectful at this time. Appreciate that, Doopy. That is one thing I take pride in when it comes to this chat. We do occasionally have moments where we say the wrong thing, or moments when we, when we don't understand what we're saying. And I'm always willing to give people the benefit of the doubt because it happens to me too. It happens to all of us. It really does. But we do, by and large, provide a lot of respect. We do not sit here and say, every wrestler is trash. It's not a case of coming in here and saying, they need to push this person and everyone else needs to go away. That's not what we do here. We're not reactive. We're intelligent people. We have brains, which is not something you see in every YouTube chat. For example, Kervin saying, a lot of people on Twitter want to see Nia Jax get fired. Literally just arrived. Gordy says, with NBC getting 4 primetime specials each year under the new deal, I'm curious, will they bring back Saturday night's main event or something completely different? Something completely different. There is no intention to bring back Saturday night main event. The Dude has renewed his membership for a 5th month as a channel supporter. Thank you kindly, The Dude. Very much appreciate you. Adam says, are more releases expected? As Sai says, pardon me, we have no way of knowing at this time. We're not going to stay live for 10, 12 hours just in case. That's not what we do here. But we're definitely going to stay live at least a little bit longer until things seem to have calmed down. And at the moment, things seem to have calmed down. It seems likely, given the size of the batch of releases, that there are going to be more. Dimitar hopes some wrestlers are safe, but not all of them. Leon, it's a quality joke, if not for someone just being fired. Vegeta says, can't wait to see Dolph to AEW rumours. Already started. No worries, Daniela. Corey says, it's going to be a long day for you, it seems. Like how heartbroken Dolph Ziggler's gone. I knew he was going to be gone eventually. They have not been using him. Very true. Keyshawn says, luckily we're in a time where these wrestlers have more opportunities than before. And we are. It's one of the reasons that I still talk AEW news. One of the reasons that I went to Wembley. There is plenty of good reasons to support different wrestling shows. There's plenty of good reason to support Impact, New Japan, Eve Wrestling, which I went to before Wembley. There are plenty of reasons to support those shows, and they're very good reasons. One of the main ones is creating opportunities. And it does mean that people who are released, people who may have to essentially get kicked out of the United States because they don't have a job and thus the sponsorship required, may have somewhere else to go first. Michael Welcome says, hi Tom, per SRS, thank you for sourcing, 90-day non-competes for most of the releases per usual. Fair enough, kind of what we expected, but it does take them until basically Christmas. For a lot of people who are working in the US under visas, that's a death sentence for their careers. No worries, Eric, appreciate that. Austin says, NBC for me is channel 13. Cool. Joey says, oh god, the cuts are really happening. We were expecting them. There was plenty of warning signs coming. Noom says, good morning, or better yet, good afternoon, Tom. Seems like we got some releases and it's not the evening yet. It's not. The WWE tend not to mess around when it comes to things like this. They top load it. They give you all the releases at once. It sucks. But it is what it is, and there's not much we can really do about it, unfortunately. Dylan, welcome. Says Emma literally tweeted promotion for Elimination Chamber, then her next tweet was her being released. Brutal. Yeah. Absolutely sucks. It should have been a huge opportunity for her. A huge opportunity for her. And it just limits what people can do. And that creates its own challenges. You never know from one side to the next what's going to happen. Because you've seen quite recently, Braun Strowman was in a great spot when he was released. Aleister Black had just come back. And then he was released. You get the feeling that it can hit anyone at any time, and that's no way to run a company. It just makes everyone nervous. Martin says, of course, we all have wrestlers we enjoy more, but these are people's lives. Hope everyone gets the help they need. Adam, thank you for this. Says, Fightful just confirmed your sourcing that WWE tried to minimise releases. Well, hopefully, with this in mind, they will retweet my thread where I went into detail as to that and as to Fox. I've been going on about that one for a while, and it's one of those where sometimes we spend so much time discussing and talking about those individual things, and so many different times I've mentioned it, that it feels like it's never going to happen, or when it does happen, we kind of forget about it. This is one of those situations where I'm not particularly happy to be right. Because yes, they were trying to minimise, but they didn't minimise enough, unfortunately, and now here we are. Thank you very much, Baker Baby. Baker Baby, thank you very much for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get notifications every time we go live. We do spoiler warning, as the list below, Mondays and Fridays, and we have a SmackDown watch party on Friday nights as well. We also release almost daily shorts to try and keep them daily, but sometimes there's no news. So you'll get plenty of wrestling content here. Joey says, I'm shocked Dolph got released since he's been there forever. Any Ohio says, I'm waiting to just hear the same names released from last year. I don't think we're going to go that far. Gary says, Dan from Eve is always very complimentary about your reporting. Bit off topic for today, but did you enjoy Miyu Yamashita versus Emerson Jane? I really did. I actually bought an Emerson Jane t-shirt afterwards. She made a fan out of me, I'll tell you that. Fair enough, McWawa. Let me go through the list. Now, let's do a quick recap of the releases. Sorry, one sec, guys. I'm just getting a message. I'll be right with you. Okay, so to recap, total releases so far. That is, of course, Emma, Aliyah, Rick Boogz, Mustafa Ali, Elias, Riddick Moss, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin, and Dolph Ziggler. If you've heard names other than those, they are not sourced. To be blunt, they are not sourced on that one. Just wanted to be very, very clear on that one. Okay? Keyshawn says, thoughts on the Moxley-Ray Phoenix situation? They're in the situation. There was an accident. Someone got hurt. Wasn't anyone else's fault. Joey says, why did Ali get cut? He was supposed to have a match at No Mercy. So there's a few different reasons that people can get released. I've gone into a lot of different detail and shared a lot of information as to what I'm expecting and what is likely to happen. But when it comes to releases, more often than not, people are released simply because they want to. Now, Ali previously has been very open about the fact that he wanted to be released. There are cuts coming. They are trying to cut the budget. And with this in mind, they're cutting quite a few names who were maybe on more than Nick Khan believed they were giving to the company. Certainly people who don't appear all that often would be a part of that list. Red Top Rich says, are you going live later? Depends what happens. It depends what happens. What I will say is I'm not going to give my entire day to this. I haven't eaten yet, and I've been awake since about 7 o'clock this morning. It's now 6 o'clock in the evening. I do eventually have to eat. Baker Baby says, I'm absolutely heartbroken by the released wrestlers' info. Top Dollar was going to be undisputed champion one day. Sad day. He certainly did connect with the fan base quite well, particularly when it comes to the social media. Michael says, Dolph is shocking to me. Yeah, it seems to go beyond what we were expecting. Makwawa says, I'm not too surprised because since the merger they said there were going to be big changes. There are going to be changes, but it's one of those where a lot of these names, a lot of them just aren't the names that we were necessarily expecting. Dolph Ziggler jumps out, but the WWE have been trying desperately, particularly, as I say, Triple H and Nick Khan, with the help of Vince, have been trying to increase revenues to the point that they didn't have to do this. Unfortunately, they did not succeed at it. And it's obviously not a good thing. It's not what we wanted. It's not what we wanted to see. But this is unfortunately just something that happens and something that does limit what they're able to do. It absolutely sucks, and it does mean people losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, and potentially, unfortunately, having to leave the United States. But there's no control we have over it. Stephen Harris says, I wake up and find that there is a mass release. Yep. Chris says, I realise it's too soon, but of these releases, who do you think WWE could bring back in the future? Way too soon. And no reason to have... there is no information, none whatsoever, to build on. I can't even begin to speculate who's going to be brought back because I don't know what the budget's going to be. I don't know who's going to want to be brought back. I don't know who's going to be released. I don't know who had angry conversations on the phone. There is no answer I can give you. Joey says, I've got a bad feeling we're going to see more Triple H rehires getting cut. They've been the ones who've been nervous about this. Triple H in particular not wanting this to happen, but that is something that happens, unfortunately, and we don't have control over it. Yes, Stephen Harris, Karrion Kross has not been released to my knowledge. Makwawa says, the fans are kind of to blame a little. Illegal streaming the pay-per-views, and instead of tuning into the live show, they watch highlights of TikTok creators. Fans are not to blame for this. That is not the case. I will dispute that until the end of time. Fans are not to blame for people being released. Okay? Any Ohio said, this is why people hate the WWE business model. Fire on-air talent on the same day they announce $1 billion TV deal. Yep, as I did mention earlier, they didn't get the money and the revenue they were looking for, so they made the changes like they're doing today. It's a real shame, but there's nothing that can be done about it. Joey says, Fightful reported cuts are expected in NXT. This is getting worse. That is confirmation. Brian Alvarez, of course, did report that first. James Kemple says, WWE could have had 100k plus at Elimination Chamber if it was here in Melbourne. Clearly due to politics and the crime getting bad in Melbourne. It's not clearly due to that in any way, shape or form. They were offered that particular stadium. That's what they were offered and that's what they were paid for. They were not offered Melbourne. They didn't choose the stadium. This is a bit of a misnomer. The WWE did not choose the stadium that they work out of. That's just not what happened. Kieran says, thankfully it seems the releases have dried up. Been nearly an hour since the last one. And with that in mind, I think this is the right time to call it for now. Bailey, thank you for bringing this. It says TKO stock is down 12 points today, mostly on the SmackDown announcement. Mark says, per Fightful 90-day non-compete. I don't know if this has been said. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry. If you're going to repeat a source, that's fine and that's valuable because I might miss it. There is never a problem repeating sourced information. I'm going to take a quick break and just put the screen dark for a moment. We are on 57 likes at the moment. 3 more gets us to 60. And when I come back, we'll go through the last of the comments. And if nothing else is happening, we will move on. So I'm going to take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a moment. Thank you for your patience, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to run through some more of the chat. I'm also going to look at what's trending on social media and why. Essentially, we're going to sniff some leads and see if anything is actually true that's being reported on social media. First, though, just to keep caught up with the chat, Joey says, was this Nick Khan who decided on these cuts or Vince? It's exactly the same as it used to be. Vince McMahon says cuts need to be made. Nick Khan presents a cost-benefit analysis list, essentially saying we think these people are the best choices to be released, and then they move on from there. So it's quite a simple process that is repeated ad nauseum. You'll note that I didn't mention Triple H's name in that. There's a reason for that. He's not even slightly involved in the process, which is why there are active storylines for people who are being released. Austin says, I don't like when people put this one's been released and this one being released and you look and it's not true. Yep, fake news is bad. And Chris says, I'm now curious as to where these talents end up. Me too, and I'm sure in the days to come we'll share a lot more information about that and see how it goes. For now, though, let's have a look at what's trending. All this is going to be is essentially a rumour killer exercise just in case. So I'm seeing a lot of trends for example, WWE releases and the like. Frankie DeGennaro says, do you think main roster cuts are done? I find it unlikely. I think there's a number of lists and they're doing a few batches. Joey said the yearly budget cuts returning. No, this is a special circumstance. I mean, this is quite clearly a special circumstance, if I'm honest. Any Ohio, CM Punk, no interest whatsoever. None whatsoever. The WWE, particularly Triple H, do not want him. Do not want him at all. First up, trending second for sports, Johnny Gargano. Let's have a quick look. Nothing to suggest that he's being released. Fans saying, leave Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae alone. That is at Roman Spear Me. Interesting. At Dion Ted DJ says, where is Johnny Gargano? Is he safe? Is he all right? There seems to be absolutely no concern whatsoever as to Johnny Gargano potentially being released. I Talk Wrestling says, Johnny Gargano, do not pick up the phone. Do not. By the way, just to be clear, if you don't pick up the phone, you get an email. What do you think is going to happen? If you don't pick up the phone, they'll send you an email. You'll still be released. So yes, right now, the trend for Johnny Gargano is just people saying, don't release Johnny Gargano. Which does create unnecessary tension, I feel, but we are where we are on that one. Next up, let's have a look at what's happening. Joey said, is this happening because they didn't get more money from Fox? Yeah, that's one of the main reasons, Joey, that this is happening. They were trying to mitigate their potential losses by bringing in further revenue. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it worked out. Right, so next up, Karrion Kross. Also, Roman Spear Me. Call me dramatic, but I'll cry if Johnny Gargano and Karrion Kross are released. One person really pushing plenty. Okay, a lot of people. 11 minutes ago at Elite Club SOB says Kross is getting released. Kross is getting cut. Kross is going to be no longer in WWE. Kross remains. You're making it trend, mate. You're making it trend. Okay, this is bad. Karrion Kross Era has posted a picture of Odyssey Jones drafting to Raw and says he survived. Don't play with fire. Don't make people trend because you're celebrating them not being released when there is no guarantee at all that people will be remaining. You cannot do that. Just to clarify, because I just want to be very clear of what's happening. I'm just going through the trends, doing a bit of rumour killing, and stating whether or not there's actually any evidence in these trends to suggest there's a release. Because so far, the top trends are not even the people being released. Okay? The top trending names are not the people being released. And that's something that really, really annoys me. You could be sending messages of positivity right now to the people who are actively being released. Instead, Everyone is speculating on, oh, this person going, this person going, this person going. This person going, this person going, this person going. At Bub3M16 says, have a bad feeling Matt Riddle is getting released today. That has 30,000 views, and it is pure, unnecessary, damaging speculation. Completely unnecessary. There is actually some additional benefit. When it comes to Riddle, sometimes it's just the word Riddle. A riddle wrapped in enigma. Oh. An hour ago, at Leo Wrestling said, Matt Riddle has been released. I'm just practicing. So you're joking with someone's livelihood. Not good. In response to WrestleOps, King Ryburn says, Hit Row, Aliyah and Riddle tomorrow. This is painful watching at times. It's difficult sometimes to do my job because of all this rampant speculation. Just rampant and unnecessary. Absolutely horrible. Just keeping caught up. Razal says, Tom, really appreciate you doing this. No worries whatsoever. No worries. I'm happy to do it. Because I want the truth to be the most important thing. The truth. Ronnie says, just heard about the release an hour ago. Sad to hear. Yeah. And he says, I always thought Ziggler and Swagger should have held tag belts. They would pair it quite well, I think. Buck Spaceman says, Top Dollar is gone. I'm assuming the other two is safe. As Ed says, no way to know. At this point in time, they may have been released, but it hasn't been fed to Fightful. It hasn't been fed to PWI or Wrestling Observer. They might just want to keep it to themselves. Practically anyone could have been released. Not every release gets out there. People right now celebrating, oh, my favourite survived. They might not have. They might just not want to put it out there publicly. So this is a moment to be nervous. This is a moment to be very nervous. Mark says, in the 90-day non-compete, can they sign somewhere in that time but can't wrestle? That is correct. They can appear on TV but not in a wrestling capacity. Or he says, I got the push notifications for the releases, went to send it to you and couldn't figure out where to send it to you. Sent it on TikTok. I don't know why I didn't think of the Discord. There's a newsroom in the Discord, Ori. Jump in. That's the place to share links and share news. I'm keeping an eye on it, and Sai and Ed are feeding me things, and I appreciate you, Sai and Ed, for keeping track of everything here, for ensuring that the right information is getting out. I really do appreciate it. Joey says, and I see Sai's response, people were saying, there's a problem. Gonna leave it there. There's no point reading the rest of it. People were saying. If you don't source it and you say people, it means you don't trust the source you read it at. So why are you bringing it in here? Ronnie says about half of them were people Triple H brought back, and the others have been there quite a while. Christopher says, I'm quite sure Ziggler asked for his release. That's pure speculation on your part, and you know that. He was finally ready. It was a great ride. Time for something new. AEW confirmed. Not confirmed. I am immediately putting you in timeout. Not confirmed. Pure speculation. No basis in fact. Come on, mate. You gotta think about it. Gotta think about it. Anyway, you'll be out of timeout in a very short amount of time. Keyshawn says, wish more wrestling journalists took that as serious as you do, i.e. Meltzer. Ronnie says, again, no truth to it, no fact to it, no real idea of it. Says the other Hit Row members are safe for the moment. We don't know that. We do not know that. Fair enough, Joey. The chat is moving quite quickly. I can't always keep up with even my own conversation. If you can just clarify that in the comment that it's a false report, that'd be great. Reading it now with what you've said, I understand entirely what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, but it is quite quick moving, so I do lose track every now and then. Oof. So, moving on from the Riddle element. Michael Cole is trending pretty heavy. Don't know why. Oh, Get to Table says no more Michael Cole jokes on Top Dollar. General Booty says the same. Adam Goldberg, in fact, after Top Dollar is released, says Michael Cole somewhere celebrating. Can't say I love that. Really can't. Just wanted to double check that was recent, and yeah. Yeah. But Boogz says, out of all the releases so far, who do you think is going to another promotion? It is far too early to have that conversation. We have absolutely no information whatsoever to work from. None whatsoever. It's far too early to have that conversation. Jonathan says, people got to stop saying names for the sake of saying names. For sakes, please. And he says, maybe I'll see Dolph back home around Northeast Ohio in the coming weeks. He's been there a while, mate. Steve, welcome. Says, evening, Tom. Never a good day when people lose their jobs. Fingers crossed these talents land on their feet. The wrestling scene outside of WWE is much healthier than it has been in many years. Very, very true. Lucha says, Michael Cole trending because of the Top Dollar stuff, which is accurate. Sai says, quite rightly, anyone trying to be edgy gets a timeout, guys, because we did get a troll in. And usually, we play with trolls, but today's not really the time. So, if everyone can do me a favour, say hi to the troll, then say bye to the troll. Ronnie says, they haven't been announced yet, put it that way. Hopefully they will truly be safe. That, I think, is the right message to send at this point. We currently have 65 likes and 72 viewers. If you're able to, please do remember to hit that thumbs up. 5 more gets us to 70 likes, which is a huge boost to the numbers and really does help the growth of the channel. Also, if it's your first time here, please do consider subscribing. This is what we do here. This is what we do. And hopefully it's something you like as well. Lots of people saying hi and bye to the troll. Appreciate all of you. Tommaso Ciampa is trending because his match with Giovanni Vinci set a record low for the least watched match in Raw history. At Top Super Kicker says Ciampa, Gargano and Candice don't pick up the fucking phone. Again, you're making him trend. You're making him trend for the wrong reasons. Outside of that, mostly positive for Ciampa. Apart from the fact that he's literally trending because of the new low. Yeah. Awkward for everyone involved. Appreciate you, Joey. Always nice to see. Steve says, I'll be lurking in the background while doing the housework. Reminder to all to like and share this video. Thank you very much, Steve. Tony Khan's trending. 5,194 posts. Mostly about the releases. Every time. Lucha says, sad. Recently I showed my girlfriend the Elias Ezekiel stuff and showed her the amount of heat he can get on the mic, so I'm shocked it didn't work out. The man had talent. I don't know what happened. I don't think we have the full story here, and I don't think it's actually going to be anyone's fault. Coup43 bringing in sourcing here says, Wrestling Inc. is saying that Mark Henry stating that Tegan Knox got cut. Can anyone confirm it? I appreciate you brought in a source, what they're saying from, and you're asking if it can be confirmed. Ed saying, quite rightly, no confirmation that we've found yet about that. Let's find out, shall we? If Mark Henry is saying it, then Mark Henry's Twitter account will be the one putting it out there. I'm just going to type Mark Henry into the search box. Okay, wasn't the easiest find. I'm going to go into Google and search Mark Henry Wrestler Twitter to work out which one it is. It is at the Mark Henry, so let's put that in. Back to Twitter. At the Mark Henry. What have we got? We got him? Does he have a blue tick? He does have a blue tick. Oh, thank you, Ed. Good point. He is likely on Busted Open Radio right now. Yeah, it's not on Twitter. He hasn't actually tweeted anything for a while. September 18th. 3 days. Imagine not tweeting for 3 days. Ronnie says, Elias was the biggest surprise for me because of where he was on the card prior to 2020. Joey says, do you think NXT is going to get gutted again with the budget cuts? I have absolutely no idea. No idea whatsoever. Jonathan says he said it on his show Busted Open. Thank you for the clarification. But it turned out to not be true. Is it? Because here's the thing. We look to confirm that things are true. We also kind of have to try and confirm whether things are not true. We have to check in on that. If I look at the hashtag WWE releases, at Beast Mode 9000 says, never forget Dolph Ziggler is one of the most underrated talents in WWE history. Wish him all the best and hope he continues to succeed. That has 32,000 views. We have at Just Billiam saying, I told you all what was going to happen with Hit Row. That's got 10.3 thousand views. Not the biggest fan. At This Is Nasty says, Shelton Benjamin is one of the greatest talents to ever walk through the doors, let alone in the history of pro wrestling. Clap for him. 22.5 thousand views. So there's some positives. Oh, at Mighty Source, 23.6 thousand views. Carrying Cross when his phone rings today. These are the tweets that go viral. And it sucks. Absolutely sucks. Kevin Carlson on TV stating Elias and his brother Ezekiel reportedly released. I get the urge to make jokes here. In many ways, what you're doing by doing that is saying to the WWE, hey, this guy was over. And you have screwed it up. But I don't think, unfortunately, that message is going to come through. Thank you. Thank you, Sai. Sai at the moment is essentially doing the running for the show and doing a lot of the research along with Ed. You guys absolutely making the show happen. I appreciate you. Michael says, Elias lost steam without the fans. I agree. Elias's whole character was based on the fans and connecting with them. I don't think anyone, apart from maybe Dominic recently, has connected with the fans on such a clear, obvious, visceral level. And it's very unfortunate that it didn't go further. Very unfortunate. I do think wherever he goes next, if he goes anywhere next, I do think he'll be a hell of a get. Tommy B says, Shelton and Dolph would be a huge ad for any company. Appreciate that, Ed. Any Ohio says, Elias and KO segment in Seattle was gold. Literally the most heat of anyone for years. Rizar says, a lot of the people on Twitter are immature and probably kids. You are not wrong on that one. You are not wrong on that one. Just doing one more run of the trends. Tegan is trending. I'd imagine this is because of false reports, but let's see. Hard to see. It's mostly historic, actually. At RIH Crave, Tegan Knox and Nikki Cross, when their phones start ringing today, I'm starting to feel like people only have one joke. Like, I'm starting to think they simply only have one joke, and it's always the same thing. Just to be clear, once again, if they don't call you, what they'll do is email you. Either way, you're going to be released. Lot of talk as to the Tegan Knox trend about Becky Lynch wanting to work with her. That report came from Fightful. Of course, it's not what actually happened. And to be fair, even if the match had happened, I doubt it would have made too big a difference. Carmella is trending. I can't imagine it's related to a release. One of the first people I actually saw was Mark there. Yep, it's a false report. Someone with 98 followers has a 62,000 view tweet stating Carmella has been released. Fightful has confirmed. Essentially, they're pretending to be Sean Ross Sapp. You will note that they're still there. Still there. Guys, can we get rid of the troll again, please? Yep, the account is still live. They are just reporting the same thing. Solo Sikoa released 10,000 views. Lena Vega released 10,000 views. They've got an even bigger one. Liv Morgan released 123.5 thousand views. Whoever is amplifying this needs to stop. They absolutely need to stop, because there's a reason it's getting out there, and it's not to do with the actual accounts. JJ says, hey Tom, they say Ali wasn't let go because of budget cuts. Do you know why he was released? Budget cuts. Who's they? Book Spaceman says, hey Tom, question. What happens with Ali's match at No Mercy? They will work it out. The release would have happened before they were able to rejig creative. Tyler Bate likely to step into it. Sai says, I was at the Raw after Mania where Ziggler won the world title. Legit the loudest pop I ever heard. Keyshawn says, Shelton Benjamin is also another underrated talent. Gary says AEW need to shoot a segment of Jeff Jarrett picking out a new guitar in a music store and having a Stone Cold Booker T style guitar smashing fight with Elias and Boogz. Okay. Joey says that same SRS account said Liv got cut earlier. Once again, what will have happened there, and I know exactly what will have happened there, they will have created this account purely to do that. So if the account gets banned, oh well. They've got 120, just for the Liv Morgan tweet, they got 130,000 views. And it will have been amplified by people like Sean Ross Sapp. So people actually just scrolling through his feed will think that's real. Vince McMahon is trending, 3,452 posts. Wow, Jesus Christ. Wrestling Gift says Vince McMahon will not see heaven for how he fumbled this man's career from 2012 to 2014. I'd imagine that's in reference to Ziggler, but that is dark. And very unnecessary. Just Alex Central says, to be fair, Triple H probably told them that thinking Vince McMahon wasn't going to come back. I'd imagine this is as regards promises made, which were not kept. A lot of historic stuff. Paul Heyman Sim says, I'll be in Vince McMahon's nightmares if I hear any bad news about these amazing people, and shows the way. You guys have no control over this, and you really need to realise it. Some very strong words being used. Very strong words being used there. Marcel says, hi troll, bad troll. Bad troll. Keyshawn says, Emma could go to AEW and be the best worker in the division. Nah, mate, not quite. Chris Leclerc says, Liv Morgan's not going anywhere. Can't guarantee it. Joey says, do you think the big talent in NXT will be cut, or will it be PC talent? Once again, I've said it a few times now, we have absolutely no way of knowing. No way. Adam says, ach. Cool. Lucha says, that's disappointing. I like Wrestling Gift's videos. FDR says, oh, hi, Tom. Didn't know there's going to be a stream today. What did I miss? As Ed Riley points out, massive releases. Like, quite enormous releases. It's not the biggest amount of individual names. So I think it is one of those where, given time, we'll see what the actual impact is. Michael says, would love to see Emma go back to Impact and have matches with Trinity. Let's read out the list one more time for anyone who is not already aware. Let's talk about exactly who we know has been released. So far, multiple sources have confirmed that Emma has been released. Pardon me. Aliyah has been released. Rick Boogz has been released. Mustafa Ali has been released. Elias has been released. Riddick Moss has been released. Top Dollar has been released. Shelton Benjamin has been released. And Dolph Ziggler has been released. Mark Henry has stated that Tegan Knox was released, but we are yet to get a second source on that. We are, of course, looking at these releases as what they are. It is budget cuts, it is firings. The WWE, as I've been mentioning for a while, have been trying to increase revenues in order to avoid having to do this. That moment did not come. We also saw today the announcement of the deal for Australia and the deal for NBC Universal taking over SmackDown. I'm going to read out one more time the thread that I posted on Twitter earlier. I'm going to post the link as well one more time for anyone who missed it, in case you want to check it out. But I'm going to read this out, and while I'm doing so, please be aware that while it's nice that we have 69 likes, one more gets us to 70, and I'd very much appreciate it if you could supply that. So, WWE is planning to leave Fox for NBC Universal, with SmackDown moving over in October 2024, but that is only the beginning of the story. Major changes will be happening with Fox in the months to come, starting with Rupert Murdoch stepping down. Rupert Murdoch is arguably the most powerful man in the world, controlling a vast media empire that for decades has been the pinnacle of media. The acquisition of the WWE fit their agenda perfectly at the time, but the landscape has changed since 2019. A monstrous loss to a lawsuit that cost Fox $787.5 million for claims made against Dominion voting machines has meant that they are far more careful what goes on the air. Tucker Carlson, their most popular host, was the first major casualty. Losing the WWE is a testament to a number of things. Firstly, the loss of that much funding, or the lawsuit, coupled with the loss of that much income in Tucker Carlson, is making them rethink their spending. The WWE, particularly Vince McMahon, always believed the WWE to be worth more, that being more than Fox is willing to pay. Fox simply weren't able to match the ambitions of the WWE, and in particular TKO's Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel. Also, TV ratings simply aren't important anymore. SmackDown earns the WWE huge revenue from TV, even during bad shows with low viewership. Additionally, Fox themselves are evolving as a company. Their core audience has always been hardcore conservatives. Demographically, that means old, white, and male. Donald Trump exemplified those values, and that association has cost Fox massively. There is evidence to suggest, however, that the world is changing and becoming more liberal. People are more likely to believe in global warming, vaccines, and gun control. The Fox message simply doesn't resonate as strongly. This is also true of wrestling, which has historically been portrayed as liberal but actively run by conservatives. Triple H, for example, does not have the same values as Vince McMahon. While McMahon is still in charge, he isn't running the day-to-day product. Wrestling is being presented differently, so while Fox was initially attracted to it, they now have neither the capital or motivation to take what is seen as a gamble. Lachlan Murdoch, set to take over the company from his father, has his own vision. SmackDown moving to NBCU will see smaller ratings than Fox. However, the only people who care nowadays are the people not really involved in the business. As far as the WWE is concerned, it's all about the money. This decision, though, does directly impact rumours of talent releases. Nick Khan and Triple H have been working hard to increase revenue streams, with Vince McMahon directly assisting. The Australia deal announced today came with an increased revenue. The TV deal did the same. The increase, however, doesn't seem to be enough. As such, we're still expecting cost-cutting measures and a more streamlined company. Vince McMahon historically does not enjoy working with a larger roster. Triple H in particular will likely be very disappointed today, but he will have to put a brave face on. Lost count of the amount of times I've said this, but WWE has no interest in CM Punk. Joey says, I wonder if the incoming talent they signed recently will get cut. Everyone is allowed to wonder. Ori says, wasn't The Rock's daughter recently cut, or was that not confirmed? That was a false news report. Ed says, he's our resident NXT expert. He literally covers it at length. If you're looking for an NXT post-show, Ed's your guy. Says she is currently still in NXT. Lucha says, any update on Moxley's health? Just that he picked up a concussion. He should be fine, but they're going to rest him for a little while. Squid says, I'm confused. I was watching Maven Kaufman's YouTube. He talked about his release. He had a 90-day non-compete, but he was still paid on the downside guarantee. So aren't these people still getting money? Yeah. That's part of the non-compete clause. Joey says, will there be another stream at 5 p.m? Nope. At some point, like it's 6:30 now, you can hear my throat going. At some point, I do have to have time to live my own life. There will be spoiler warning tomorrow as usual. Squid says they shouldn't have to leave the country if they're getting an income, right? It depends whether or not the status of their visa allows them to continue. It's not based on income, it's based on having a job. As Ed quite rightly points out. Powerpuff said Dolph Ziggler, Elias and Emma would take a... Okay, nothing is for sure. Unless you know them personally, and you're claiming to know them personally and know what they would like, Powerpuff. Nothing is for sure. Robin Dave says, hey Tom, just heard about the releases. Any news on any more? Not at this point in time. I'm aware that there is a longer list that has been provided by Nick Khan, but they have been trying to mitigate the amount of releases that they would need to do. They are trying to mitigate that, which would mean they are trying to limit the amount they actually release. Or it says, Tom, we're wrestling fans, we have no life. I'm a parent now, I'm trying my best. We've been live for an hour and a half. I'm going to call it there. I do want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined, all 683 of you that have viewed. We have an average view duration of 8 minutes, which is absolutely fantastic. We are 7 subscribers up at 5,241. We peaked with chat rate at 9. We've had 73 likes. A very good show, despite the fact that unfortunately the subject matter not so positive. We will be live tomorrow with more spoiler warning. Until then, thank you all for joining us. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.